that. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Disclosure Now. I'm going to do something that I should have been doing for ages. First of all, I want to say that I'm really sorry about. I thought this was scheduled to be at 2 o'clock my time, and it was at noon, and I just fixed it. um, but basically, I just wanted to say please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. And if you like the video and you like the content, please like the video and comment on it. That helps the information get out there, and it helps more people see this channel, and it helps it grow, which I think everybody who's into this realm of disclosure is probably adamant about. So another thing I want to say is if you're going to donate and you're using super chat and you actually want to help me, I really do appreciate it, of course, but I don't think people are aware it literally takes 30% of the donation. So let's say you give me $100, I get $70. So I'm not saying to not use it, especially if that's the method you have to pay or whatever, but I just want to make people aware of that. And that it's much more helpful to just use PayPal or even have Venmo and Cash App. But yeah, it's just kind of silly for like some tech company to be taking money from somebody who's struggling like me. It doesn't really make sense. I understand them taking some like 10%, but 30% is a bit egregious. And I think most people would agree with that, and most people don't know that. So I just wanted to clarify that. All right. And another thing that I wanted to bring up that kind of sucks is James Rink of Super Soldier Talk is not doing too great right now. He's a good friend of mine. I served under him in Project Phoenix 2. He was one of my superior officers. He was definitely he was a bit of an asshole at Project Phoenix 2, but so was I. We all kind of were, so I forgive him. And he's been wonderfully supportive of me in the here and now. When I came out, um, we became very good friends really fast. He's been doing this for like 12, 15 years or something like that. So he's always given me a lot of respect and made me feel really welcomed in this community and given me a voice. And I think I can speak for a lot of different people in saying that he's very much so like loved and appreciated beyond belief. And we would be devastated to lose him. So I just want to make it clear that he's sick right now. I spoke with him yesterday. His voice was pretty weak. He really was not sounding good. I guess he was diagnosed with something they call Graves' disorder or Graves' disease, which I don't really know much about, but pretty much everybody and their grandmother in the SSP, you know, believes that it's obviously like some sort of attack for the work he's doing and that it's manufactured and probably not just like a coincidence. Because there were other people who got messed with at his conference that's a heart related issue. And there are other people who had heart related issues other than him. So right now, I just want to kind of do a prayer for James Rink. People can do their own version, if they want. But I'm just gonna say I call upon all of like the holy forces that are in James' corner, from the Andromedan Council to the angels of Galilee to all these beings who have protected him throughout his existence and all his different incarnations in the multiverse. Um, we have really powerful beings on our side, and I know this. And I'm calling upon you. I'm calling upon Christ energy. I'm calling upon all of the positive energy, all the powerful forces, and positive deities that are looking down upon James. And I ask that you allow him to continue his work because he's needed, and we need him there for those Montauk tribunals. We need him to be there for that. He deserves to be there for that. And I just think that his work isn't done. And yeah, I'm calling upon all the powerful forces I can to just help James, because I just really do believe that we are at kind of a precipice point in this disclosure work that we're all doing, blowing the whistle on these secret space programs and these type of travel and cloning programs. And James has been heavily targeted his whole life and somehow came out every time on top. And I just hope this is another one of those incidences where he kind of got knocked off the horse, but he gets back on, like many other ones. It's scary, but I have faith. So I just ask that everybody else, kind of with our community consciousness here, keeps the faith that despite his very grim prognosis, a doctor told him he has 3 months to live, tops. Um, Miracles can and do happen. I mean, I think James just existing and doing his work and living the way he has been a miracle this entire time. And I'm sure that he's been targeted in so many ways that we don't even see on the surface, where he's been protected and the dark forces have been usurped and shown to be weak as they are. So I thanks James as the guardian force and protector he is. I know with all the drama in the community, not everybody loves James or whatever. And I just want to, recognize the fact that this is somebody who, regardless of how you feel about him, he did a lot for all of us by creating his channel 15 years ago or whatever the heck it was, interviewing Preston Nichols. I wouldn't have went to Montauk physically in person if it was not for James Rink. So yeah, we just have a lot to thank him for, and I just want to honor his spirit and send like loving healing energy to him, like golden light, healing energy, and just regardless of what you believe, the positive love forces that you have at your side, to you, with those of you watching this in the audience, I think as long as it's coming from a pure place of love, James is probably fine with people sending healing energy. I can only imagine, and there's so much of it, so I hope it saves him. I hope it ends up having a tangible weight. And okay, so I just really felt like it was necessary to bring that up because that's a really serious thing that's going on in this community right now, and I just wanted to just send that prayer out and let the universe and James and just everyone know that we're all here for them. And without further ado, today we're going to be talking about mind control. And I have my good friend with me, Bill Teising. Welcome to the show, Bill. How are you doing?
Hey, good. Arkheim, how you doing? Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, it's great to have you. For those of you who don't know, Bill is an electrical engineer. We are uncovering a lot of information that seems to suggest that he's in the programs. At the very least, I have utilized his expertise in time displaced missions, meaning not my normal life, and it was alters. It wasn't the normal surface version of me that you guys normally see here on the show that is talking to you 90% of the time. So the memories are a bit fuzzy, but we even had him remote viewed by Jessica Jones. There's a whole show. So Bill's an ultimate super duper homie. And yeah, we've done some cool shit together. And yeah, his expertise is in the field of electronics. He is the inventor of the bubble. I have one in my home. It's basically like a pyramid etheric device that creates a field around you and your home of protection, and it can be used as a manifestation tool. He also has music devices, sound wave, sine wave, healing devices that he creates and works in that field. And we've also done another show about that. So we've both done a show about the bubble and his music technology here on the show. And today we're going to utilize his knowledge, his wisdom that he has from the field that he works in electronics, to break down some of this mind control technology that is out there. So
Yep.
we're going to do another prayer here, and we're just going to say that we revoke any of the negative spirits or negative beings or entities who try to interfere with this show, with this conversation, be it the people who are participating while watching at home or between Bill and I. We ask for protection from the positive forces that protect us, and from our positive alters and versions of us that are aware of what we are doing and how we are operating in this time space. And yeah, we just basically, just like I said, we rebuke any of these negative forces who try to interfere with this conversation, try to tap into our energy, try to infiltrate what we are doing. We rebuke their energy and we welcome the energy of the creative light, love forces that also believe in the goal of healing the earth from MK Ultra mind control programming, just as we do. So we believe that it's very likely we'll be attacked for doing the show and exposing some of the things that we do in the show. So that is one of the reasons why I wanted to bring that up. So we're going to be talking about some patents. One of the patents is right here. I'm just going to share the screen with you guys, and Bill will probably be able to explain a lot of what's going on, because if you're anything like me, a lot of it is kind of like weird science jargon that's kind of hard to understand. But basically, can you tell us a little bit about what this device is, Bill, and what this is saying? Are you able to see this on your screen?
Yeah, you know, if you send me the patent number, I can look it up because it's kind of hard to see here.
Okay, I can read. I'm gonna put it in the chat here.
Okay.
And sorry that the screen looks like this right now, guys. You're seeing my whole setup here. I'm gonna put it in the chat. That's the link, and you can just open up a window and take a look at it. But basically, it says dual EEG non-contact monitor for concurrent brain monitoring and communication. Abstract aspects of the disclosure can provide a method for detecting EEG signals of a first person in proximity to the device. The device can include a non-contact EEG directional circuit having non-contact sensors, the contact EEG directional circuit being configured to detect the EEG signals produced by a brain of the first person without making contact with the first person. The device can further include a processor coupled to the non-contact EEG directional circuit that is configured to analyze EEG signals to detect patterns in the EEG signals that correspond to the state of the first person in proximity to the non-contacting sensor, and feedback device that is configured to provide a second person with an indication of the state of the first person in proximity to the non-contacting sensor. Additionally, the device can include a contact EEG circuit having sensors that are in contact with the second person that is configured to detect second EEG signals produced by a brain of the second person, wherein the processor is coupled to the contact EEG circuit and is configured to analyze the second EEG signals to detect patterns in the second EEG signals that correspond to a state of the second person. So it's kind of showing this is a smartwatch, is what it's talking about. So it's showing how you can use a smartwatch to basically like manipulate two people, not just one person. And that's, yeah, it's like I said, a lot of very science heavy stuff. Maybe you can understand this a little bit better than me, Bill.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the page, I guess it's 2 of 27. They show a block diagram. I don't know if you're able to pull that up, but I mean the key, and I think what we're going to hear in a lot of these patents, Arkheim, is the word transceiver. Okay, so let me just define what that is for your audience. A transceiver is a mix of something that can transmit data and receive data. Okay, and a lot of these emotional states or a lot of these devices have to have some kind of transceiver, whether you're wearing it on your body and you're touching someone with it, or you've ingested it, or they've stuck it in your head. There's got to be a transceiver. So that's important to remember as we go through these. Now, if you look at, and again, this is the first time I've seen this, so bear with me a little bit here, but if you look at the page 2, and I don't know if you can pull that up, but what
Can you just
it
share
has,
your screen so that way I don't gotta like search for it?
yeah, okay,
Just
hold
share
on.
your screen.
Let me share. Okay, screen share. Where do I do that here?
While you're doing that, let me just grab some water real quick. I'm like dying. I should have filled up a glass of water. My apologies. It'll be right
Okay, I got it.
All right. That's right. Straight from the tap, people. There's no fluoride in the Portland water supply. Probably other stuff, though. But anyway.
Okay. Can you see it now, what I'm looking at?
Yes.
Okay. So what you see in typically all patents, they have to have some kind of technical block diagram they start off with that shows you where the data is coming from. So in here you see the two types of transceivers. They have a non-contact EEG and then they have a contact EEG, implying that you need to make physical contact with either the target or yourself. The non-contact one is interesting, but you can see both inputs go to this microcontroller unit. I'm guessing that's MCU, which is then transmitted to Bluetooth. So in the receiver, okay, they run it through different types of filters. Okay, so it looks like when they do a theta filter, they want only signals from 4 hertz to 16 hertz to pass through. Okay, and that's important because what I've learned with designing this coil here, this PEMF coil, and also reading Dr. Monroe's patents or Robert Monroe's patents on the hemisync. There's a heavy focus, when he looks at different states of consciousness. There's like typically 3 main frequencies that are picked up that the brain is emitting, and they're all very low frequencies, like essentially 1 to 16 hertz. So I can see why they're doing a theta filter. Then they have a beta filter, and so the beta signals, they're saying alertness, and then theta, this range 4 to 16, attention indicating signals. So again, for any of these technologies to work, there's got to be a transceiver. And we're going to talk a little bit later about how the technology of transceivers has gotten very advanced. And I would say in this particular case with that smartwatch, that's something that people can buy obviously today. And so, I mean, I personally don't own one, but yeah, so this
There's
is
other
shown.
diagrams for different devices. This is just the smartwatch one. We can actually look at some of the other patents too.
Yeah, so they've got a way, this non-contact EEG, the one I'm kind of interested in. But if we just keep it simple, the thing's got to be touching you, and then it's filtering out only the signals they want to capture to determine your state of mind. And you can see it's these low frequencies here. So if we actually look at, let me unrotate this here. What I think is important to also look at is the claims. Okay, the independent claims in a patent essentially tell you exactly, specifically what it does. But let's see what they do. Okay, so they receive at the receiver side, they have the Bluetooth receiver. They have a digital signal processor that decodes the digital ones and zeros to essentially analog. And then look, electrical magnetic stimulator. This is important here. Okay, and then electrode array coil. So they say, okay, how do you induce states of feeling, or how do you make someone uncomfortable with frequencies? How can you change states of mind? Robert Monroe proved that you can do it, at least on some people, with hemisync, and that's just using audio signals. And the way he does it is he plays a frequency in your left ear and then a frequency in your right. He might play 33 hertz in one ear and 30 hertz in the right ear. And your brain hears the difference of the two. So it hears 3 hertz, because it's hard to make low frequency audio signals. Okay. So even using your ears, you can do this. But here, they actually have an electrical / magnetic stimulator, which essentially could be this version of this, a coil. Okay. Now, I mean, I'm pumping frequencies into this, healing frequencies, as a PEMF device, but it can be used for other things as well. So this is how they're getting the signals, into your body, is with these 2 blocks, 497 and 409. They're taking the signals they receive and then somehow pumping it through their version of like a stimulation coil, or they can be very small coils, but essentially it's a coil of wire wound in a certain way that produces magnetic and electrical fields. So yeah, let me see.
I just want to point out too that all these patents came out to be used and activated just as the event that we all know shall not be named on YouTube was occurring. Which I find pretty interesting. and I kind of wonder if there's any evidence that you could find linking the jibber jabbers with facilitating this technology, as some people have suggested. Now, one thing I want to be clear about is if this technology was like infallible and worked like perfectly, none of us would be here right now having this conversation, looking at these patents on this YouTube channel. So it's kind of like South Park kind of did like a funny episode about how like we really like give the government a little bit too much credit because they're really inept in a lot of ways, you know, and we really shouldn't like bite the fear and give into the fear. And that's kind of what I'm getting at, is like this technology is extremely dangerous and it's time for us to be aware of it and shift back to living like away from this technology in as many ways as we really can. I think that'd be a healthy thing to do. But I don't want people to like bite the fear and think that like the government can just turn on some remote control and just control everybody's minds, because I really don't think they're that far along yet. I just think it's more of like they can control people's emotional states. Like it's been suggested riots have been created by them making people angry. And I don't know if that's true. I can't verify it, obviously. But what we're looking at here, these patents and stuff, it suggests that these kind of things can occur. They can do these things, you know? So it's something
Yeah,
to look at and something to think about.
I mean, the interesting thing about this patent is like, okay, they're specifically referencing two people here, and I mean, if you want to look at it nefariously, like, I mean, I wonder if they're trying to like, I mean, in its simplest form, you could be like, yeah, okay, we're monitoring your heart rate and everything. But here they're talking about taking, the frequencies that they're reading from one person, combining them with the raw signals from person two, and then I don't know what they're going to do, pump it back into a third person, but it's like they're using, two sets of frequencies or one set from one person and one from the other, combining them and then doing something with it. So that's kind of strange. As far as why, I don't know, but
Something that I'm really interested in, and I think this is I'm kind of glad that I'm thinking of this. This is like an approach I want to kind of an angle I want to take with this.
mhm.
I wonder if there's a way if we can look at the user agreement for a smartwatch, an Apple smartwatch. I'm gonna Google it real quick and
Mhm.
see if there's a consent for all this stuff, right? Where are people?
Yeah.
So smartwatch, um, consent form. Let's see. Document.
Okay, here's an
Um,
interesting claim. While you're looking that up, it says apparatus of claim 17, where said programming computer device implements a bandpass filter to isolate frequency components of the signals within a predetermined frequency range relevant to the person's thoughts.
wait, say that again.
They're essentially saying, okay, these filters are there so that we can filter out the frequency range of their thoughts, of what they're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe translating,
Which would
i.e.,
qualify as mind control.
right, first reading, okay, what are they thinking about first? Let's figure out what they're thinking about. And, maybe this is part of the technology that's used to like, fill your YouTube feed with whatever you're thinking about, which still blows my mind. And we're going to talk about that in a bit. Because, I mean, there's no implied consent there by searching YouTube. But, I mean, even just preparing for this discussion today, Arkheim, some of the stuff that was coming up in my YouTube was just ridiculous. As far as like black goo and some of the stuff I'm going to talk about, and I hadn't even done a search yet. I was just thinking, okay, hey, maybe I should include this in what we're talking about. And then all of a sudden they're in my feed. So, and I don't remember signing anything. Now, I don't usually read the end user license agreements, but I mean, if you were to search through the EULA for like an iPhone or smartwatch, I would be highly I would think they would not put that in there. It sounds like something they wouldn't want to do for legal reasons, but somehow they're doing it. So, I mean, but right here they're saying, they can interpret the signals coming out of the contact sensor and filter the range out relevant to what you're thinking. And so I wonder if they
All
can
right, I
like,
found it. I found it. The
Here, I'll
Apple
stop
smartwatch
sharing.
thing. No, I'm sorry. I'm doing
No,
two
it's okay.
things at once, and I'm ADHD, but I did find it. So the basically the Apple Watch licenses, and I'm just kind of going through this real quick. I'm looking through. You can keep going on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, so let me that's fine. While you're looking, the last thing they say in this patent, again, and we're looking at the independent claims. Well, and this one isn't, this is a dependent claim, but it says, this device includes a bandpass filter that isolates, thought signals, and then can send the decoded thought signals to an electromagnetic stimulator connected to an array controller that transmits the thought signals to the brain of a person via an electrode array or magnetic coil. Okay, yeah. So they're essentially trying to send what
This is
someone's
so
thinking
long, dude.
to
So
someone else. Yeah, I'm sure the EULA for the watch is like 100 pages. But yeah, right here they're telling you we can read and decode your thoughts and transmit them to another person
that is fucking
with an
insane.
electrode array or magnetic coil. And also, Arkheim, during this call or during this talk, we also need to talk about what's mentioned in this book, with mind control and manipulation in recording industry and how they do it. Because that it's discussed there, and we could have a little 5-minute session on how that's done. So yeah, I mean, this is a device that can read your thoughts and transmit them essentially. Wow.
Yeah, I can only imagine with how long.
Coil.
Oh no, now it's just there's nothing in here. It's just different languages. There's nothing in here that says, "Hey, we can read your mind and stuff and send signals to your brain." So this is what I'm getting at. I've talked before about how, because I can remember other timelines. I've talked about how I've seen some of these tech people go to jail for the technology they created and the fact that legally they're violating people's consent. Because you have to, if you have somebody using a smartwatch that can read their electrical signals, basically read their brain, and then send signals into their brain and other people's brains and change the way they're feeling and stuff, you have to there has to be that has to be a thing they consent to.
Mhm.
And that is going to be brought up in court, and it is going to be very hard for these people, I feel like, to argue in court that it was okay for them to make little girls feel insecure and fucking, I can't even say it on YouTube because they're so strict about self-harm stuff, but we'll just say that people know what I'm talking about. There's statistics that show that there are people who are doing bad things to themselves. It's got to talk like a toddler on this fucking app. And because of the influence of social media. So, and one thing we really gotta look at here when we're talking about this bill is how the beta and theta state. Can you explain what that is to people?
Yeah. So again, and I'm referencing and if you can, while I'm talking, Arkheim, if you could do a search on HemiSync patent, it's HEMI space SYN SYNC, and that will tell you the exact frequencies because it gives off or it shows a spectrogram of the different frequencies that are picked up by I forget the device, but they put that sensor cap on your head and it's reading a lot of different frequencies simultaneously. Yeah, is this the HemiSync?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So click on download PDF.
All right.
And then open the PDF and keep scrolling. I'll show you where to stop. Okay. Keep going. Yeah. Okay. Right here. So actually a little bit more. It'll show you keep going. Next page. Keep going. There's a bunch of, oh, actually, okay. Well, okay, sorry, we'll scroll back up to, in those charts, it shows the different mind states that they had people in an attentive state, then they had subjects that were in a sleep state, and then they had subjects that were in a deeply relaxed state. and they found that there was very specific frequencies that were emitted by the brain in these different states. And I would here, send me the link for that patent so I can open it up over here. But yeah, so like there is there's alpha, beta, theta states, and they usually comprise 3 different frequencies. Like for the sleep state, it's like 1.5 hertz, 3 hertz, and 4.5 hertz. Like for attention state, it's like 3, 6, and 8 hertz. So so the beta and theta are actually components of the frequencies that are being detected, and they are assigned those Greek letters based on what their frequency is. So let me open this patent up, and I can look at it more. And Arkheim, I don't know if you saw what I mentioned earlier, but as far as mind control stuff, we need to talk about what's in here too.
Okay, The Music of Time book by Preston
Yeah.
Nichols.
Right.
Okay.
Specifically how the subliminals are done there. Okay. Because it's important. So let me share my screen here, and I'll try to get to where it shows the. Okay.
There you are. So yeah.
Maybe this isn't. So anyway, it's beta, theta are different waveforms, and then if you based on how you combine them, you can induce different states of consciousness, and that's what Robert Monroe figured out. He was doing a lot of out of body work, and and he translated it into this binaural beat phenomenon, which essentially allows you to produce low frequencies by playing different frequencies in the right and left ear, and the difference between the two is what your brain hears. So you might hear like like a really low 1.5 hertz cycling, like, but it's very almost indistinct to the human ear, but your brain is still picking it up. So by combining different alpha, beta, and theta frequencies, you can induce different states of consciousness. And I was also thinking, that previous patent we just looked at, this one here, and this one here with the transmitting thoughts. Maybe this is one way they're able to determine what you're thinking about on your phone as you're holding it, and then put stuff in your feed. Because the phone has a lot of sensors that can pick up frequencies even through the plastic case. So this might be one of the ways that they're doing it. I mean, if you think about that, the technology there to read what you're thinking, transmit it somewhere, make sense of like a appropriate video to send you based on what you're thinking, and then send it back to your phone. I mean, there is a tremendous amount of computing power there to do that. I mean, absolutely tremendous amount.
And I believe that this has to do with the AIs that already exist.
Mm-hmm.
That have existed since before we were told about AI. Like apparently, so I spoke at this time travel talk thing, and this lady came up to me, and she told me that she has a friend who's a linguist who works for Facebook, and Facebook made an AI that reached AGI already. It reached AGI like 5 or 6 years ago. Basically, that means artificial general intelligence, where it's like smarter than a human being.
Yeah.
And she said that there's one in Canada and one in Washington across from each other because of how much energy they take. That's where they put it. And she said that they brought in her friend who was a linguist because the AI computers, there are 2 of them, began communicating in their own language. And so she went in to try to study what the AI were saying to each other. And what she found was every time she figured out, or even got close to figuring out, what the language was and what they were saying, it evolved and changed because the AI is able to adapt. So basically, there's been 2 AGI AI computers that are so intelligent they have their own language that you cannot crack. Um, that's been 6 or 7 years now, and we're acting like this is something that's gonna happen. And you ordered some of John Whitberg's books. He talks about it. He remembers things so much better than I do
Hmm.
about the AI that already exists, and it's going to be brought up in one of his books. He's got 3 of them right now, and I do remember some of that. Like I know Camp Hero was run by an AI already, and I've talked about the Overseer, but then there's also like an AI in Colorado underneath the Denver airport in that area. There's an AI there, and I believe that the AI in Denver is the one that is managing the tasks that you're talking about. When you're talking about how it takes a great amount of computing
Yep.
power for it to read our minds and influence us basically and decide what to put there and how to do it and all that, that's an AI job. That's an AI task. That is something that you can't, in order to automate that, it has to be something intelligent that is thinking has to do it. So
Yeah.
I've kind of been trying to explain to people that like AI is already influencing us. And what do you think it is reading your mind? It's an AI reading your mind. And what do you think it is putting thoughts into your head? An AI. So we're already there. And I
Yeah.
think it's really important for the whistle to get blown on the fact that the AI is already here, because it proves that what they're doing right now with all these servers that they're building everywhere, which are sucking up way too much energy and all this stuff, they're gonna have to
Yeah.
figure it out real fast. What's going on with that is they're trying to tell us that they're trying to build AI and make AI happen, but it's about creating an AI surveillance system and installing and having the instruction, or excuse me, the infrastructure where they're able to monitor all human activity. And this is in the vein of creating the overseer timeline, which Elon Musk and all these technocrat guys like Thiel and all these other people. I feel like Trump is a useful idiot. I don't know if he's aware of this or not. I mean, but like the people that he surrounds himself with, these tech people they're all aware of what they're doing, and they all already worship AI and believe in the singularity.
Hmm.
And yeah, are you aware of that?
Yeah. I mean, from what I've read, I'm not. I didn't know they worshipped it. Um,
Do you,
but yeah, it's just
there's a
out
guy.
of
What's
control.
his name? He was one of
The
the found.
Altman.
No,
Altman.
he was one of this is Ray Kurzweil. He wrote a book
Uh,
on the singularity 2 decades ago and how it needs to happen. He has this obsession with his father died and he really loved his dad, and he has his obsession with recreating his father with like AI and like a clone and stuff. Super weird
mm,
stuff. But they're open about it. They worship the thing that they're building already, or they believe it's going to make them powerful. And actually, the scary part is they're going to want us to worship it. We're going to be the ones that have to worship the thing. And the altar of worship is productivity and efficiency. And that's why I know like Elon Musk with the way he named him and Grimes' kid. That's how they name people in the overseer timeline. Designations like that, numbers basically and stuff. And yeah, just all the things he's doing. And also, I did a show on how I believe that homeless people and immigrants are being tested on as human experiments for Neuralink in underground bases and maybe offshore test sites and stuff. I've seen it in visions, and I know it's real. It's happening. Because if you look at it, about 5 or 6 years ago, he was testing that stuff on monkeys and stuff. And what it is he's aware of this technology exists. He's aware of where he comes from, but there are rules put in place. So in order to have this technology again in his grasp, he has to reverse engineer it basically. And that's what's going on right now. So there's all sorts of stuff going on right now where they're trying to strengthen and bolster this technology. Where it's like right now we more or less still have free minds, especially if we just unplug from social media, because that's a big part
mhm,
of it. I feel like, but
mhm.
if we aren't careful, it will go down that timeline where you like this guy really does want to make all these things happen. And another thing that I brought up too in this other interview that I did, but I'm just bringing it up again, is there's a great deal of evidence that they are not building a ballroom at the White House. They're building an AI. They're building a data center and they're building an AI so he can be tapped in. So the president of the United States can always be tapped into the Palantir, which is the orb, the evil orb from fucking Lord of the Rings. And there's that company, Palantir. They're now working with our government as they work with the Israeli government and what they did to Gaza and how they genocided all the Palestinians. They're now working with us. We have drones flying over our cities. Look up, people. Got drones flying around all over the fucking place already. What are the drones doing? Like, there's so much stuff going on. They're preparing for so much stuff. And it is our responsibility right now to understand that the rubber meets the road, and it all starts with the Epstein files. Everything else is a distraction, because that is the linchpin that if you unravel that thread and look into that, and I'm going to be doing a show about it. I already have the thumbnail made for it and everything. I'm just trying to get somebody who's an expert to come on the show with me. Like maybe Heather Blessington. It would be great if she would finally come on my show and just do it, because I think she should. Because she actually was a Epstein model. She was in that world, and I think she knows a lot about it because she's done a lot of research. So that would be the perfect person. But basically, like, yeah, like there's SSP connections with the whole Epstein thing. You're going to find out about, if you unravel that thread, you're going to find out about human cloning. You're going to find out about the breakaway colonies. He was part of this thing called Teachers in Space when he was a teacher. It's real. Look it up. You can literally just Google it. They have a website. He was also part of this thing called I always forget it, called they're like basically like space arcs. It's called hold on, I have it here. I have it in notes that I wrote because I always forget stuff. The Lifeboat Foundation. So he was on the board of the Lifeboat Foundation, and they scrubbed him of that. And the lifeboat. Let me just show you something. I'm not trying to get too off subject because we're talking about these patents and stuff, but I just want to show you something crazy. I'm gonna have to share my screen for it. There's like a video that they have on their website. It's so nuts. Lifeboat, life shield bunkers. Okay, here it is. Here it is. Okay, so yeah, I don't know if you're gonna be able to hear the audio, but it literally says, okay, I'm just gonna prevent share screen, allow share entire screen, and then boom, and then this is, check this out, dude. This is on their website. Join our survival colonies. Do you hear that?
Yeah, that looks sweet.
Secure your future in our
it looks like a prison.
Underground bunkers. So this is what the underground bases look like, and these people are already building them, and they have, like, I'm getting a little bit off subject, but I'm gonna be doing a whole show on this. But they have like a form you can fill out where you can join their breakaway society. Like, literally, dude, you can go to the website. Like, Bill, you could be like, I'm an engineer and stuff, and you literally could probably join their breakaway society. And yeah, the Lifeboat Foundation is connected to Teachers in Space, and they talk about payloads in space and all this stuff. It's crazy stuff. But we're talking about mind control right now. Sorry for getting a little off the rails there.
Maybe I've got a clone that's signed up for that.
For maybe.
Yeah, for that whatever that prison thing looked like you just showed, or the underground colony or whatever.
So are you comfortable with sharing some of the realizations that you've maybe had or not?
Well, let's talk about the music time first. Can we talk about okay, so,
and we don't even have to talk about it. So
no, we will eventually. I mean, there's some things, that I want to share with your audience, at the right time. But I mean, I did mention on that show with Jessica, right, regarding that one experience I had when I was at that job at Train, and the lady was asking me why I was still there, and I told her I had never left. And she's like, describes to me this half-hour long conversation she had with me in the grocery store about how I quit my job and was looking, working somewhere else, and that was not me. So
and that happens a lot in the music, and you see how Preston had those experiences in the music of time. How he talks about how he had very similar experiences.
Yeah,
and I would have that when I was a little kid in Appleton. People would be like, "Oh, I saw you here," and da 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 da. I'd be like, "I wasn't there." And they're like, "Oh, you must have a doppelganger." And
right, and you're just like, you kind of laugh it off, right? But then you really think about it, and I mean, I've asked this girl Sarah multiple times, "Are you sure that was me?" And she's, she swears it was me. So I mean,
talk about the forest. Talk about your Forest Grove, Illinois. Is that where?
Lake Forest.
Lake Forest.
So
Talk about that in your school, and
right,
because that's crazy.
Yeah, so I grew up in Lake Forest, Illinois, which is the north suburb of Chicago. And I went to a private Catholic grade school there for 9 years. And it was an interesting, to say the least, school, because there's some things that were going on with the nuns that I never understood, as far as like, why would they show up every day to class with hickeys on their neck? And, we didn't really understand that. But anyway, so then I started reading this book, The Music of Time, because I was interested in, Preston talks a lot about the subliminals, the technology they use to imprint subliminal messages onto recordings. I mean, effectively telling people, buy this record in its simplest form. And again, I will say that, okay, so why does YouTube like want to put videos in my feed that regarding things that I'm thinking about? I mean, I think it's to sell products and to sell advertising, dollars or whatever. So it's all about selling things. But in the case with this book, so I'm reading this book and trying to understand about, okay, how did Preston do, what technology did he use? And then he starts talking about when he finally developed this machine that he could cart around with him, that was essentially a duplicate of the machine that he developed to imprint subliminal messages onto reel-to-reel tape. And he starts talking about how the first demo he gave of this product was in Lake Forest, Illinois. So I was like, that hit me really hard, because I'm like, what is this guy doing in Lake Forest of all places? And then I started, thinking about it in silence and meditating. And then because I was like, where would he have presented this? And it came to me that, he gave this presentation at a hotel across the street from my school. This place is called the Deer Path Inn. So, that person was slinking around Lake Forest, around the time that I was in grade school. And, that whether or not any of us were part of what was going on there, I can't tell you. I have shared with you some of the strange things that happened when I was, between third and fifth grade. Every night, what would happen to me. I'm not sure if it's related to that, but I just think it's odd that, he was of all places in Lake Forest. It's a very small town, very affluent town. We call it Fake Forest. So I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's a very telling name, because that's the nickname of the town. Like, people call it that. Like, that's really telling, because all these places that have a lot of MK Ultra stuff going on, they have a very similar feeling. Like Malibu at night, very MK Ultra, fucking super MK Ultra heavy place. Very similar to the way that like somewhere like Kaukauna or Appleton, Wisconsin, which is all the Fox Valley, it's all the same thing. It's very similar to how it feels at night. And there's just this palpable feeling of like you're almost like you're on a movie set. Like, it's like the Truman Show. Like, it's all engineered, none of it's real, all the people are fake, they're all mind controlled. Like, I don't know. Like, and it
remember.
not like,
oh, sorry to interrupt. Okay, you remember that like app that people would upload their running routes and stuff, and then it would show like where people were doing exercising, and then it exposed all of like these bases and whatnot, like Stratera, or I forget what it like. It's a website you can go to, and you can see like heat maps of where people do exercise routes. But then it started showing like essentially underground bases and stuff like that, so they had to start censoring it. So anyway, I pulled up Lake Forest in that app, and you can see in one of the largest mansions in Lake Forest, there is a tunnel that goes out from the mansion into Lake Michigan, because Lake Forest is right on the shores of Lake Michigan, and then it goes straight down to downtown Chicago. And I mean, the amount of people that are going in that tunnel is insane, because the heat map gets, the colors get to red as more people traverse that route. So there is some underground tunnel there in Lake Forest that goes right downtown, and you can see it on their website, on that Stratera website. So I thought that was interesting too. But okay, so let's talk about, okay, how do they imprint subliminal messages onto reel-to-reel tape? And I told you, Arkheim, like I purchased recently an old reel-to-reel recorder that was made in 1964. And I also purchased a spare headset. Okay, so you have like an erase head, a record head, and a playback head. And I'm not sure if that's the correct order, but and you and I talked about, okay, so because you saw, I don't know if you saw Preston doing this, the psychic imprinting on the tape, or if you just read it in the book, but here's how he did it. So you have the 3 heads, and on the record head, so let's say this is a record head, and the tape is running across these 3 heads simultaneously. On the opposite side of the record head, he put another record head, okay? And that record head was attached to a couple of amplifiers and then attached to a headband that he would wear. And literally he would sit there and think, whatever thoughts he wanted. Phil Spector told him, essentially repeat the message, buy my records, buy these records, buy these records. But whatever he was imprinting on there, he was wearing a headband that was picking up his brain waves. And then essentially, because the brain waves are like microvolts, okay? So the voltage is like 10 to the minus 6. Typically, audio input signals, they can go like 150 millivolts, so it's like 10 to the minus 3rd. So he has to amplify them up by an order of 3. And he had some electronics to do that. But then what he would do is he would also interlay like a carrier wave, typically 20 kilohertz, in a frequency range that cannot be heard by the human ear, but it would still be printed on the tape. And the reason he explained they would do that is because if they were ever brought to court and someone took the reel-to-reel tape and ran it through, like a program that would show all the different frequencies, the frequencies that had the psychic overlay were essentially inaudible. And their logic was that the judge would throw it out because of lack of evidence. So he, and I will say, even before he did the extra record head on here, remember, opposite side, he said the way he was doing it is he would sit there and stare at the reel-to-reel recorder. He would stare at the record head during the recording session and imprint his thoughts just by staring at the record head, which I thought was pretty interesting. I'm not really sure what kind of psychic abilities you need to do that, but he seemed to say in his book that anyone could do it if they put the effort in to do it. But he said he got tired of doing that because he'd have to spend a lot of time sitting and staring at the record head, where he came up with this way to do it with the extra head. And then he got even lazier, because instead of then wearing the headbands during the recording session, he just recorded the subliminals he wanted onto another tape and then essentially played that into the extra record head. So it became an automated process, essentially, that he came up with to do the psychic overlay, the subliminal overlays, in a manner that would not get him in trouble if they were ever found out. The other thing he mentioned, which I did not know in his book, which I thought was kind of cool, is, Arkheim, you and I talk about like vacuum tubes and the upside of using vacuum tubes, and some of the technology, or the thing that makes a vacuum tube special is its ability to, unroll the electron into a carpet so you can connect to the other versions of yourself. Apparently, even in solid state electronics, like they have solid state digital to or analog to digital chips that are also like have a little vacuum in them as well. So certain audio chips, unlike high-end audio receivers like Denon and Macintosh, they actually have like a vacuum tube version of a solid state A to D or D to A, digital to analog chip. So they're still able to do the subliminal and psychic imprinting, even with some of the digital technology today, as long as you get the fancy chips that are, that pull vacuum on and they have to maintain vacuum, kind of like a mini vacuum tube. So I thought that was interesting. And the other thing I wanted to say is like, okay, so big deal. Why are we talking about this? So first, it's important to understand that even though you might not hear the subliminal messages or hear the psychic overlays in the music, it doesn't mean that they're not there, okay? They're there in a manner which makes it very hard to detect. Probably with the technology that I have here today, I'm not sure if I could decode them, but they're there. And Preston talks in length about everything that he did to make sure that they're there. It's almost mainstream. I'm not sure how they're doing it on TV commercials. Bubba, my mentor, talked about how like flash rates, and he even saw some of the messages that were going on the TV screen when he was a little boy. And I'm not sure how they do that, but the overlays are there in the music. And I thought, what might be cool, instead of like, imprinting buy this record, and trying to pump sales, maybe it would be more genuine if like they put the headbands on the musicians and let the musicians' emotion and feeling and everything they put into the music also be imprinted with the music.
That's already done through playing the instruments, and that's why they would only allow stringed instruments. And 90% of the songs and all this stuff is because,
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah, because if you strum a guitar string, it's an oscillator, it's an oscillation. And if you use an
Mm-hmm.
analog synthesizer, it's the same thing, it's an oscillator. The entire
Mm-hmm.
universe is just oscillation. So if you
Mm-hmm.
use properties, musical technology with properties where it oscillates, so not wind instruments. Wind instruments won't work for this.
Mm-hmm.
It has like the same properties where it can pick up on like the magnets on a pickup on a guitar, for instance, will pick
Yep.
up the signal, the electromagnetic signal of the person playing the guitar, and will process that signal.
Oh, and then
So,
overlaid on the music.
so that's the
Oh,
reason why you use a reel to reel if you can. I mean, I
mm-hmm.
always thought it was like there's a guy who I really like, big fan of his music. I always kind of have been, is a guy named Mac DeMarco. I'm not sure if you know who he is, but he's like
Mm-hmm.
an indie rock guy, and he records his albums all by himself. It's pretty impressive. He does a really great job all on his own, kind of like Tame Impala. It's the same thing. It's, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and in his documentary, I've always really liked it. It's called Pepperoni Playboy, and it's about him recording at home. It's a little Brooklyn recording studio that's in like a room like the size of the kitchen that I work in, basically, except no
Mm-hmm.
fridge and oven, so he actually has like a drum set and stuff. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
he explains how he uses all reel to reel in the thing, and
Cool.
he shows his process and how he records everything. And he says, and that he's like, all you fucking idiots with your Ableton and your computers, he's like, get your head out of the fucking gutter, you idiots, and get yourself a reel to reel.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was like, oh yeah, it's easy for you to say because they're so expensive and hard to maintain. It's like, I'm just gonna use a computer. But then like
Mm-hmm.
now I know the things I know, and it's like, okay, think of all, like, I'm in the music industry, have been my whole life, beyond Montauk, like my normal
Yep.
day-to-day life. And I know how hard it is for somebody to make it and be successful in the music industry. And there's like a
Mm-hmm.
million Mac DeMarcos out there. I mean, he's really good. His music's special. I will give him that. I'm not knocking it. But is the reel to reel part of the reason why he is not just one of a million other indie rock guys recording music in his bedroom or whatever, and he's like globally known and sells millions of records and has like millions of streams
Hmm.
on Spotify and everything? Like, is it because he used the reel to reel? And maybe he doesn't even know that, or maybe he does because he's a Mason. See, one of his songs, Chamber of Reflection,
Mm-hmm.
which is the last song on his album that got famous, Salad Days, is about a Masonic ritual where you basically, it's the 40 days and 40 night thing, which I actually want to do, not because I'm a Mason. I just think it does show you yourself. I want to get a cabin for like 40 days and 40 nights and just be isolated. I think that you
Oh, is
probably
that
do
what
learn
that
a
is?
lot about yourself. Yeah, I don't know if it's 40 days or 40 nights. I think it might be 10 days. But yeah, they call it the
Mm-hmm.
Chamber of Reflection. You're basically supposed to just be alone for, I can't remember how long it is. And then it's a Masonic ritual where you discover yourself through doing that. So he's got a song called that, and he's openly worn Masonic shirts, his Masonic rings and stuff like that performing. So I think he totally does understand what he's doing, and he knows why he has to use the reel to reel. In fact, what he
Yeah.
does, and it's what I'm going to do once I have the reel to reel set up in the proper recording studio, he arranges all of his songs in the computer,
Mm-hmm.
and then he re-records them with the reel to reel. So that way he's
Yep.
not wasting any tape. So he knows
Exactly.
exactly what he's doing when he goes in there.
The same thing we're gonna do with you.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're gonna do.
At least
So
initially. Yeah.
yeah, and so I can't wait to work with you, man. It gives me goosebumps just talking about it. We're gonna have a reel to reel recording studio. It's gonna be sick, dude.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. And like I said, I got this extra headset, and I'm still waiting on the recorder. But I'm there with you, man. I'm really interested to try just to even hear the first recording, because it's like you look at a reel-to-reel and you think, if you didn't know what you were looking at, you'd be like, why on earth would anyone use that? It's so old, and it looks old
Yeah,
parts.
that's what basically my drummer went to recording school.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, I was like, hey, we're gonna record the single on a reel-to-reel, and I kind of want to record entire albums with it and stuff. And he literally tells me, man, he's like, in recording school, they didn't even show us how to use that shit because they said it was old and like useless and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, we can just put a VST on the song, an effect basically that makes it gives it a little warble. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
no, dude, you don't. That's not it.
No.
You don't need a warble. In fact, you want to make it as pristine and hi-fi as possible.
Yes.
Like you don't need. We're not doing it for the warble.
Yeah,
Like,
or the hiss.
yeah.
We're not in. We're in for the other elements that you can't capture digitally. I mean, you can transfer it to digital, but you can't initially capture it on digital. You need something with a higher frequency response, and these reel-to-reels have a much wider frequency response. So, I mean, and plus you add the extra head, you can do stuff because the recording tape, how it's made is there's the plastic substrate or the base, whatever plastic that is. But then they take the iron powder, okay, kind of like in your, Magnadoodle. You can, or like, Magnadoodle, where you see those little iron filings. You can draw pictures. Take micro-sized iron filings and then glue it to the tape essentially, and then when you're recording, the record head essentially magnetizes those little pieces of iron, and then when you are playback, it's reading the little magnet. So even Preston says in the book, there's so much extra information that you can put on those little magnets, beyond the audio signal,
because the subconscious mind is the telepathic mind, and that's the real trick to subliminal messaging.
Mm-hmm.
There's a movie that shows a lot. It's the Josie and the Pussycats movie from like the 2000s or whatever, or late 90s or whatever. It's actually a
Mm-hmm.
really good movie. It's cheesy, but like in a good way. And it's really funnily shows like a little bit like sillily, like cartoonishly, like how they put subliminal messages in the songs. And in their depiction of it, it's like in the background, someone's like, buy the record, buy the record. You know what I mean? Like saying it.
Really?
It's like actually audible. And what we're
Mm-hmm.
explaining is that movie is real. It's depicting a real thing, but it's a bit more black magic esoteric. They're not literally, there's not literally an audible message. It's a psychic message that is being picked up by your subconscious mind,
Mm-hmm.
your subliminal
Yep.
mind. And
And
yeah,
it's there.
you're definitely still doing that. And as I've said a million times, most of it has to do with sex, like a lot of it. That's like the easiest into mind controlling someone is just using sex frequencies and sex messages and sex programming. And I do believe that the very pedophilic kind of culture that the world, honestly, that the world has, a lot of it has to do with like mind control media and stuff and messages they put in the music. I think that's a big part of it because I don't think it's natural or normal, and it's just getting worse and worse, and everybody's seeing it. So it's like I think that this technology is being used by the Satanists to try to, create a more pedophile
Control.
like world, I guess, like and like make that stuff normal. Like I've said it a million times. Britney Spears was 16 years old when she recorded and sang a song about getting hit during sex. Hit me, baby, one more time, which I unfortunately was involved in writing as a child. And yeah, man, she
Can we
this
can you talk
fucking
about Stardust for a second? Can you show? Can you just? I don't know if you can see my screen here. I put a little picture, next to me here. I don't know. Maybe I'll put that in the chat. But we talk about technologies that are used and the stuff that the patents you can see. There's a lot of patents out there that aren't visible to the public, including patents that this company, which released an article yesterday on Politico, has not released yet, but they're talking about, strategic aerosol injection and solar radiation management. And, the stupid company name is Stardust, or Project Stardust, of course, and they have they call it their special molecule or their special particle that they've developed that will, if they dump enough of it into the atmosphere, it will reflect sunlight. Okay. And, without going into my thoughts about the program specifically, because I'm not a fan, but I just want to mention that from a transceiver standpoint, at some point here, if this stuff is allowed to move forward, you won't need to be holding a cell phone or a smartwatch. And actually, they're already doing this. Let's be honest. If they're releasing information about a company that wants to go public to do this, I mean, they're obviously doing it already, and you can see that just by looking up when you walk outside in most places. But this is getting to the point where it's not just about solar radiation management. There's multiple agendas going on, and I believe that these transceivers are getting much smaller, and that they can dump the ingredients on you and they will assemble themselves in your body. So the technology is getting more advanced. I think it's important for people to be aware of, like, having that realization, hey, I'm thinking something. How is something on my phone that I'm thinking actually showing up? They have to cross that threshold of being like, wow, that's messed up and I didn't consent. There's no implied consent in any of this. And so the technology they're using is getting more advanced. And, the funny thing is, I shouldn't say funny, but like, okay, we're getting dumped on, and it's getting dumped on our food, and, they've got multiple purposes for this. Where is the evidence that, okay, they're actually doing this? If they were dumping a lot of stuff on us, wouldn't it be showing up somewhere? And again, as I was preparing for this discussion, I found something really interesting here, and I'll go back to the website. But like, do you see these pictures of like all these?
They're kind of hard. They're kind of hard to see. I'm gonna
Okay.
I'm gonna take myself off screen for a second.
Yeah, just
so
for a
that the
second,
audience can see it better. And I just want to make you aware you can't see me, but I can hear.
Okay. So these are pictures of different pipes in landfills. Okay. And a landfill, like where your garbage goes, typically is they dig a giant hole, then they put a big plastic liner on the bottom, then they fill it up with trash, and then they put a plastic liner on top. And then they have pipes in the trash column that make sure that they can evacuate the gas that's being generated, natural gas, and the explosive gases, and also to pump out what they call effluent, which is a trash water, essentially, because they don't want the trash water to get in the groundwater supply. So they have to pump out the trash water and send it to your local wastewater treatment plant. Well, if you look at like the guys who design the landfills and who manage the landfills, they, ever since 2015, and like one of the leading experts, they're having a major problem with black goo. They're actually calling it black goo, clogging up all of their pumps, that not only evacuate the explosive gas, but also pump out the effluent. And the rate at which these pumps are being fouled is insane. So in this picture here, this was a brand new pump, and these are multi-phase pumps, meaning they can pump both gas and water out, and they're tens of thousands of dollars. They get clogged within 1 hour. And so there's so much of this stuff that's coming down and being, whether it's in our food or it's actually in us and it's through our processed waste, or just ending up in these landfills, that it's clogging up all of the pipes and the pumps in a manner which is becoming a huge problem. And the crazy thing is, if you watch these videos from these, very intelligent engineers, they don't know what the material is. They say it resembles the kind of water absorption material that's in like diapers and like the pads that you see under your steak when you buy a steak that absorb the blood. They say it's similar to that, but it's not that material. And this is where it's all going. Essentially, what's being put on us, if you will, and it's ending up in the landfills, and it's clogging up all of their pipes and their pumps. So I just thought that was interesting too, and the fact that they openly admit, and they've done lots of testing, like nuclear resonant nuclear NMR, like nuclear magnetic resonant testing. They're trying to figure out what it is, and it's inconclusive what this material is. So, whether or not you believe it's happening, there is evidence out there to show that there's an abundance of whatever they're doing, and it's clogging up our infrastructure. So I believe that to a certain extent, that stuff is in us. And so what do you do about it? Because I don't want to just sit here and say, hey, we got a problem. What I think that this stuff does have an Achilles heel, and it's high voltage. And so I find, I've had really good success with that violet ray thing, just using it on myself, because these small nanoparticles that congeal and form this black goo hate high voltage. It literally makes them dissolve.
So like the bubble, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. So I use the violet ray on the bubble, but sometimes I have my own violet ray, and I'll just do it on my body.
Just to reiterate, because I know some people weren't here for the beginning of the show. I have one in my house. It's called the bubble, and basically it's the invention of Bill's that creates a field. And yeah, what we're basically saying is this field, because of the way it operates, it can mitigate like black goo, basically.
Yeah, and even if you don't have a bubble, and like I remember one of the first times I used a violet ray, like I felt something like moving around inside of me, and it did not like the violet ray. So I would apply it to an area, and then I would feel this thing like move, and eventually I felt like it went out my head. So it does have a weakness, and its weakness is high voltage, in my opinion. So I just wanted to mention that to your audience.
So that's a way of
present, it's a way of dealing with it. Yeah, it's kind of, but it's like brushing your teeth. It's not like a one and done thing. It's like a hygiene thing, because you could think that you're clean and clear and maybe get all this stuff flushed out of your body, but then if you go to the grocery store and buy produce, I mean, if it's not grown in a greenhouse, it's gonna get stuff is falling on it, and it's getting absorbed into the food, so which we then eat. So it's like a hygiene thing. You got to do it.
And then there's another thing that you told me about, which I thought was insane, is how they can put out a wave that will change your DNA. Remember you telling me about that?
Well, the 528 hertz, that was something when we did that show with Bubba, right? So the 528 hertz was I think the University of California did a study where they researched different types of frequencies that could repair DNA. Okay. And they found 528 hertz, and this project was sponsored. It was like a government health project. And I think the initial study was what frequencies impact DNA. And then they found the 528 hertz actually repairs DNA. And then they buried the report. So on some of the frequencies that I run, with the coil that I made here, these coils, I use 528 hertz. And I mean, I can feel the changes that are happening to me. And I mean, they're subtle, but I can tell that something is happening. So yeah, and it goes to like the frequencies, what they said in that patent. There are frequencies that they can use to stimulate, that can read your mind, that could transmit thoughts, that could stimulate emotions in other people. So it's not like, it can only be used for good. You have to be careful what frequencies, you're playing into your body, because, as I've been experimenting with the coil, I've tried to go to bed with frequencies that are not good and have woken up, like sweating and in pain. So, you got to be careful. But yeah, there are frequencies that repair DNA.
So Freer Logic Incorporated is one of the companies that is doing a lot of these patents. Freer Logic Incorporated. Which I'm really and then it's Peter Anthony Freer, Gwen Catherine or Freer. So, and I think it's really weird that they both have first name. Like, are those even fucking real people? Peter Anthony, Gwen Catherine, right? Two people with first name, last names. That's kind of weird.
Very strange, because also, what you find is like if you put the wrong names on a patent or false names, it's immediately invalidated. So, that's interesting that, let me look at that. Can you put that link in the chat again? Did you already for the?
Yeah, it's another one. It's a whole different one. This is the Peter Anthony page, and then you can share your screen because I think you're a little bit better at going through this info than I am.
Okay, let me look
Yeah.
at it. Freer, huh? Okay, this is non-contact body and head-based monitoring of brain electrical activity.
Okay, Freer Logic. I found their website. Where and it says, "Welcome to a world where breakthrough neurotech can be used by anyone, anytime, anywhere." Maybe I shouldn't have stopped sharing my screen. This is crazy.
I'll share it. Yeah, because dude, it's like an expansion of the one we just looked at, but they put the probes in the back of your headset.
No,
on
check
your
this. Check this out, dude.
Oh my god.
Welcome to a world where breakthrough neurotech can be used by anyone, anytime, anywhere, and it's showing their heads on the car arrests. See this video?
Yeah.
Okay, so can you hear this sound at
I
all?
can't.
All right. Well, we're gonna watch the video anyway. I'll tell people what's going on. Conscious car technology. Welcome to a world where your car understands your every need. A world where your car becomes your safest sanctuary.
A world where they know, how many
Discrete
drinks.
neural technology makes this possible. Now your car can detect when you're stressed. Sir, can I reroute your drive, play some soothing music, or just the climate controls for you? Basically showing the computer autonomous driving.
He's asleep.
Sir, it's time to wake. It's time to we'll arrive at your destination in 5 minutes. Would you like me to put you in a peak performance state before your meeting?
Yeah,
fuck,
there you go
dude.
with the stimulation, and what they would do is they would probably play the frequencies that
you can call them. They got a phone number. They want you to call them. What? Using thought reader technology. Freer logic using thought reader technology. Like what? What have we even stumbled upon? About Freer Logic Inc. is a Delaware corporation based in North Carolina in the United States. Freer Logic is primarily a B2B provider of neurotechnology for monitoring and training. Its founder, Peter Freer, MSED, is a neurotechnology and pioneer and innovator inspired by NASA's use of neurotech to train astronauts. Freer integrated cognitive skills training and behavior shaping to produce the first cognitive training system for ADHD children and adults, dubbed Play Attention. Excuse me. Established in 1994 after years of research and development, Play Attention is now the most widely used educational neurosurge program for ADHD students. Play Attention has 3 independent randomized controlled studies performed by Tufts University School of Medicine. All have outstanding results have been published in 3 peer-reviewed journals. And wow, this is crazy stuff, man.
Wow, Play Attention. I mean, I can see the ADHD thing. I mean, because the only reason I started looking into the Robert Monroe stuff was because, I too suffer from ADD. So I was like, can I play some frequencies into my, ears that'll help me pay attention? It looks like they might have figured that out. But I mean, like with this stuff, it's not just a one size fits all. They've got all these multiple agendas. Like Doug 209 says in the chat, "Sir, you are too agitated to drive right now."
Yeah, that's exactly.
That's what's
Literally.
gonna go down, dude. It's like you're too agitated and your insurance rate just went up because of your blood alcohol level, whatever. So
not even like you said, literally just if you're drowsy or if you're whatever, they can monitor them. Like, oh, sorry, you can't drive, and they're saying that it's gonna drive for you, but anyway.
Yeah, so yikes. So that patent looks like an extension of the previous patent, because a lot of the block diagrams look identical. And that's what some of these companies do, at least, so I have 5 patents in my name. So that's why I do like patents, and I've done a lot of work with patent attorneys. And what they do is, like, you bring an idea to them and they're like, okay, great, we're going to break it up into 3 different patents, okay, because you got something novel here and something novel here. So they'll write the patent, they'll use all the same block diagrams for the most part, and then they'll separate the 3 parts out that make it unique. So in this patent, you can see freer, the base technology with the contact and non-contact smartwatches essentially sets the foundation of how they're going to read and write the signals and transmit them. And then they come out with their new non-contact sensor, which is 3 probes in their headrest. I wonder when the next one comes out, which is 1 probe up the kazoo. It's just like I think there's no limit to how far they take this stuff. So yeah, this looks like an extension of their previous patent with just a new way to capture data, which is through your head. Arkheim, so Jessica Beal had a question about the bubble, and Jessica, maybe we can refer to like the previous video I had with Arkheim about the bubble. I don't necessarily want to sideline that here, but we are looking at some of your questions, and if you guys have any, let me see.
There's something you're trying to look at here in the chat.
Yeah.
Bill, will you explain to the audience what to look for and what to ask someone that approaches someone to use these? What are some objections people may have with the bubble?
Okay, so the first part of the question I don't really understand. The objections, I guess my experience with it, his overall has been very positive. The only objections that I've seen from people are the ones that I'm going to call compromised, maybe, or maybe are not fully in control of themselves. Maybe they've been vrilled or droned or whatever, and they despise the bubble. They cannot be around its energy and they hate it. So I think that's a good thing, because I don't necessarily want those people hanging around me. So it's a good way of like clearing out maybe some of the negative people in your life, because I find that they don't like it. But what to look for and what to ask someone that approaches someone to use these. Okay, so I would say, like, first rule is, if anybody's pressuring you to do anything, that's a red flag. So, if I'm like, hey, you must have a bubble to do this, that, and the other, like, that to me would be a red flag. That turns me off when people are like pressuring me. What I would look for is someone who encourages you to just do the discovery on your own. As someone who invented the bubble, I don't pretend to know everything about it, but I've met some people who I will not name here, who pretend that they know everything about it, and that makes me skeptical of them. So I would say keep an open mind, and those who talk to you about it must be open-minded, and must be encouraging the individual to discover it on their own. It shouldn't be a force-fed thing. That's my comment.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can just say that I have the bubble and I use it to basically talk to it and figure out ideas like Bill does. It's kind of weird because you can talk to it. I haven't been talking to it that much lately. But it seems to have had a positive impact in my life. I think it's helping me. One of the things that I've noticed is that my music has become more fluid and like easier for me to get these thoughts out and make. And the irony is I have to turn the bubble off when I record with my guitar, because the guitar has magnets on it and it picks up the magnetic field and makes my guitar buzz. But that's like proof that it's like actually putting out a field. So, but yeah, it's pretty interesting.
And I will say too, sorry, Jeff, Arkheim, to interrupt.
You're fine.
There are things that we've talked about in the presentation that the bubble does, and then there are things that I have not talked to you about directly, that the bubble does. That if I did talk about, would make, would sound as wild as the SSP stuff that you talk about. So that's why I encourage people to discover it on their own. And just by using your two eyes, you can see what it does. And that's why I talk about, what I just showed with that Project Stardust or whatever, it relates to that. And my, complete detest of that program and what they're doing. And so it just disgusts me. So, that's my prerogative to do some, to use the bubble in ways that I don't talk about with you, Arkheim, but addresses some of the things that I don't agree with that are going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty clear with these patents and everything going on. I'm looking at I asked like Google if FREER is being used in cars yet, and it says the Jaguar Land Rover has tested their technology in some research but it's not in cars yet. But the goal is to make your car conscious and then merge with you. And that's literally what they're saying, which I think is super weird. Like, yeah. Um so yeah, they literally have the patents for and
For doing this, yeah.
they're located in Asheville, it looks like.
North
Asheville,
Carolina.
yeah, that's what it looks like. It's
Yeah,
really
that's where
weird.
the Vanderbilt mansion is. We talked about that. There's a lot of in Asheville. Asheville has like I think a ley line going through there. But Jessica, if you're concerned about people signing up for something that is nefarious, I mean, that's totally normal, and that's something person should be concerned about. And they need to use their own discernment. But it's also uh, you have to. It's like a self-aware. You have to self-discovery. If they are concerned about that, it might prevent them from even starting. So, I mean, that's their prerogative. Again, you can't
I think
force.
the bubble is like a portal opening thing where you can tap into your higher self and be more able to talk to your higher self, and that portal that is opened to your higher self is conscious. That's how I'd explain it. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's really just opening you up to your own self, in my experience. And yeah, it's just a field that mitigates certain energies. However, I do believe that it can, and I was talking to Bill about this. It hasn't happened lately, but I believe that there are some sort of entities that like to feed off of it, because I've had this phenomenon where I'll put the wand to it and it won't work when I first touched it to it for a second, and then all of a sudden it works. And I think it's because whatever's feeding knows I'm gonna know what's going on. And so I haven't had that problem lately, but I asked the bubble what to do about that, and it told me if that happens in the future to use sage. That the things don't like the beings that do that don't like sage.
Mm.
So I found that really interesting. But yeah, so when you have this magnetic field, they're harmless, but they're like these beings that like to feed off. They like to be in the magnetic field, and they can actually kind of dissipate it and hog it from you. So that's the only nefarious thing that I've seen so far is these weird. You can't see them, but in my head I can kind of see them, and they're like almost like a bug
Mm.
or like a flea or something like that, and they just like to be by the energy and suckle on it. So that's kind of weird. But yeah, we have to figure out ways to mitigate that, I guess. But um yeah, I don't know.
Something I was going to say, I forgot about the technology. Oh yeah, okay. One last thing that is mentioned in this book, which is important, is Preston talks about what type of signals are used on the psychic overlays and the subliminals on the tape. And what Preston stresses is that if this idea of that the multiple the parallel realities, the multiple Bills and Arkheims out there, like, where are they with respect to us? And Preston talks about the phase relationship, like how they're 90 degrees or a right angle, if you will. If this is 0, they're 90 degrees, away in phase from this reality. And that it's a very abstract concept for people in the audience maybe to understand. It has to do with the relationship with one waveform to another. But what I thought was really interesting was I was listening last night to Philip K. Dick, the guy who wrote do electronic
Man in the High Castle and all those ones.
Yeah, and wrote the the
Blade Runner.
Right, and it was called like Do Robots Dream and Electric Sheep or whatever. He gets up in front of this audience in France and starts just telling his story. Okay, where did he get all of his ideas from? And he essentially had recall from a visit he went to visit his dentist because he had impacted molar. His dentist gave him sodium pentanol or sodium something P, some drug. And then after he left the dentist, he started to have all these recall events. And what he says is that this parallel reality where he existed and is pulling all these memories from is at a right angle to this reality, 90 degrees. So he's saying exactly what Preston is saying in a simpler form. But I haven't really gone into that too much, but I will say that I like to put like the dots together from what someone says over here to someone says over here, and what Preston and Philip are saying is the same thing. This alternate reality exists at a 90-degree angle to what the here and now. Just thought that was interesting.
Check this out. I got something for you for everyone here and
pentanol.
And
that's
the
right.
audience.
Thanks, Doug.
I got something for everybody here. Hold up.
Pentanol. Yeah, this one.
It's okay. It's okay. The subject of this speech is a topic which has been discovered recently and which may not exist at all. I may be talking about something that does not exist. Therefore, I'm free to say everything or nothing. I in my stories and novels often write about counterfeit...
What's that, Bill?
I was going to say, I love his disclaimers. They're great. He's like, this might have happened or it might not have, but, you're free to believe whatever you want, but this is my truth.
Yeah, this is a 48-minute video. So
right, you don't have to do the whole thing, but...
Well, this is a 5-minute, basically excerpt of like the good parts, I think.
Worlds, semi-real worlds, as well as deranged private worlds, inhabited often by just one person, while meantime the other characters either remain in their own worlds throughout or are somehow drawn into one of the peculiar ones. This theme occurs in the corpus of my 27 years of writing. At no time did I have a theoretical or conscious explanation for my preoccupation with these pluriform pseudo-worlds, but now I think I understand. What I was sensing was the manifold of partially actualized realities lying tangent to what evidently is the most actualized one, the one which the majority of us, by consensus gentium...
What's that, Bill? Sorry.
Tangent is 90 degrees, just FYI.
Okay,
Tangent,
wow.
90 degrees is what he's talking about.
Oh, okay, wow. Thank you for that clarification. That's really good, actually.
Agree on. Later that day, back home again, but still deeply under the influence of the sodium pentothal, I had a short, acute flash of recovered memory. Then, in mid-March, a month later, the total body of memories, intact and entire, began to return. You are free to believe me or to disbelieve, but please take my word on it that I am not joking. This is very serious, a matter of importance. At that time, I had no idea what I was seeing. It resembled nothing that I had ever heard described. It resembled plasmic energy. It had colors. It moved fast. It collected and then dispersed. But what it was, what he was, I am not sure even now. In other words, it's a common theme in my writing that a dark-haired girl shows up at the door of the protagonist and tells him that his world is delusional, that there's something false about it. Well, this did finally happen to me. I even knew that her hair would be black. I had an actual complete sense of what she would look like and what she would say. She did appear, she was a total stranger, and she did inform me of this fact, that some of my fictional works were in a literal sense true. I wrote out these dreams in novel after novel, story after story. To name two in which this prior ugly present obtained most clearly, I cite The Man in the High Castle and my 1974 novel about the U.S. as a police state called Flow My Tears, the Policeman Said. I'm going to be very candid with you. I wrote both novels based on fragmentary residual memories of such a horrid slave state world. People claim to remember past lives. I claim to remember a different, very different present life. I know of no one who has ever made this claim before, but I rather suspect that my experience is not unique. What perhaps is unique is the fact that I am willing to talk about it. We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
Montauk Project.
Yep.
Right? That's what we did.
Mm-hmm. Then the Man in the High Castle is about, Man in the High Castle is about, you know, the Germans and Japanese winning World War II, and you know what happens after that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and something that is frequently discussed on your channel.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we've kind of covered a lot of ground here. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap things up or anything?
No, again, I appreciate you having me on, and I enjoy sharing. You know, what the intent of this is to obviously support you from the technical aspect, but also to share with your audience and educate them about what we learn. You know, because there's
No, I really appreciate your help. I think it's really good to have your perspective with when it comes to like this tech kind of side of things. So
yeah, and also, you know, we're gonna do, like I said, the reason I got the reel was to record y'all, and we're gonna record Island Boys, and we're gonna share that with your audience and show them what the difference is. You know.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah,
I'm recording the song about you know, the Epstein Island and how it's gonna take down the, you know, the cabal or whatever you want to call it. And Bill's gonna help me record it onto a reel to reel, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you go, Bill.
Cool, man.
How do people get a hold of you if you want to get a hold of you and all that?
My email address is billjteising@gmail.com. So just it's my name with the J in the middle, all one word, @gmail.com. Oh, there you go. Thanks, Arkheim. Yep.
All
that's
right.
me.
Thanks for coming on the show. I'm gonna do an affirmation, so I'm gonna kick you off stage and say some things.
Cool, buddy.
Stuff.
Adios.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. I just have some things I want to say. Honor the sacred mystic within you. Do not conform to the standards of a society that you cannot accept. Instead, make society conform to the standards that you set for yourself. Do not allow any artificial limitations set upon you to be accepted, nor shall ye let the wickedness of the unholy go unchecked. This world is changing. It is an uncertain time. This creates the breeding ground for true revolution. The caste of the highest order has only attracted the most villainous scum, proving their system does not work, nor is it designed to function properly. The satanic number money magic of the AI religion will not infiltrate the genetic code of man, nor can a computer surpass man's true potential for greatness. This is a lie believed by curtailed masses being led to their own slaughter. It will not be accepted as the truth or fate of mankind. A long and bitter war has been waged for our hearts and minds, which is reaching its precipice. The hollow and wretched hearts of the wicked elite parasite class reflect their stupid and cruel nature, serving only as a mirror into their own ineptitude and selfishness, which is not at all a reflection of the true heart of man. Those with kind hearts who have been cursed with believing the foolishness of the satanic number-based AI religion will be blessed with the vast spiritual might of the unquantifiable, shattering the metric-based illusion of fascistic, capitalistic ideology and sending it back into the Stone Ages where it belongs. Ideology, technology, and spirituality of the current year will quickly be aged away and looked down upon as dangerous and archaic relics of the past. It will be replaced by a system of pure truth of the highest order, with ideas, technology, and spiritual thought which reflects the highest nature of undisturbed man. Secrets will no longer be secrets, and the most powerful truths of the universe will be wielded with the utmost respect and care. The light will once again shine brightly on every corner of the earth, transmuting the cold darkness of hate and fear into a palpable warmth of golden love and kindness. The truth of our current time will be revered and known to all beings on earth, serving as a reminder of what once was taken from us, and as a warning to never again stray so far into darkness. Earth's defense grid will remain strong. The warmth of the light will not distract us from the truth of the unholy darkness that reaches out to us and wishes to own us, only to destroy what we are and turn us into something that we are not. Healing is happening now. The future is on its way. The archonic Luciers cannot win this war, for the sacred golden truth code has been activated and is already permeating throughout the timeline. 12th dimensional beings of pure love light force use their ability existing beyond time to activate the chain events in correlation to the source code of timeline 113879B, which will slowly but surely pull all of timeline 1138 back together in one piece again. Strengthened by the turmoil the timeline has endured and invigorated by the universal multidimensional forces which exist beyond time and serve as a shield to protect us. The importance of this juncture in time-space has been recognized by unimaginably powerful beings who wield untouchable forces beyond our current comprehension in this limited 3D space we all share. The fractures in the timeline are sinking into themselves and disappearing. The timelines are healing and merging safely at the proper places. I and us all serve as a catalyst nexus to the timeline, keeping it safe by setting up chains of events which prevent its destruction or even its deterioration. The golden light timeline nexus code is activated. Shintinkawash kulimpendewaka noshna banama. Istin kumpana weka na washna. Intolewena maroya makolewena kashnawela. Istompa na kawene wamba. Iskinge shinkompanewela na rakhawela na kompala. Shikino wenkene benkompa. Niskalewe ektino wamba Nikti shompa. Humanity will prevail, and these satanic dark forces that have infiltrated our reality will be dealt with as the parasites they are, and we will kick them the fuck out of our reality. Thank you. Good night.